Welcome to the channel for another exciting video. Most people who watch our videos are not subscribed, so I kindly ask you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Your like is essential for YouTube to understand that this content is relevant, so please like, share, and leave your comment. Now, let's get to the story. Michael took a deep breath as he crossed the gates of the renowned school in Boston. His heart raced in his chest, and his eyes widened as he noticed the grandeur of the place. The old walls, steeped in history, contrasted with the modernity of the students passing by, all impeccably dressed in luxurious brand clothes. He, on the other hand, was wearing a simple t-shirt and worn jeans, a legacy of a tough childhood. He felt like a fish out of water, an intruder in a world that seemed to have no place for him. As he walked through the hallways, Michael tried to hide behind his notebook, hoping no one would notice him. But, as if fate wanted to challenge him, Jake, the most popular boy in school, spotted him. With a sarcastic smile, he turned to his friends, who were laughing and chatting in a nearby group. "Look who decided to show up. The school's bum," shouted Jake, his voice echoing down the hallway. Laughter intensified, and Michael felt his face burn with embarrassment. He knew he shouldn't care, that Jake's words were merely reflections of his own insecurities, but it was impossible to ignore the poison those taunts caused. "Hey, Michael, did you forget to dress for school today?" Jake continued as his friends joined him, laughing loudly. "Or are you just trying to save on electricity with that light turned off that you call clothing?" Michael looked around, trying to find a place to sit. All the benches in the cafeteria seemed occupied by groups of students laughing and having fun. He felt small and insignificant. With tears in his eyes, he decided he wouldn't let that moment defeat him. "I will show them," he thought. "I will study hard and change my life." Sadness transformed into determination. He moved away from the group of mockers and headed to a quieter corner of the cafeteria, where he could be alone. He sat at a table, rested the notebook on his legs, and began to scribble some notes. The words flowed through his mind like a rushing river, each carrying the promise of a different future. "Why are you here, Michael?" A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. It was a girl with light brown hair, who approached him with a gentle smile. "You don't seem to be having much fun." Michael looked up, surprised by the attention. "It's just, I'm trying to adjust," he replied, trying to sound more confident than he really felt. "It's just a little difficult." "If you need someone to talk to, I'm here," she said, before walking away, leaving Michael with an unexpected sense of hope. He decided he wouldn't let the cruelty of others define him. From that moment on, school wouldn't just be a place of pain and humiliation, but a battleground where he would fight for his dreams. With a new focus, Michael promised himself that he would dedicate himself to his studies, that he would do everything in his power to change his reality. Jake's words still echoed in his mind, but now, not as a death sentence, but as fuel for his determination. "One day they will see who I really am," he thought, as he looked out the window, dreaming of the future that was yet to come. Michael felt increasingly isolated. The nights at the new school became a mix of anxiety and determination. Even with the stigma of simple clothes, he decided he wouldn't let that define him. The break, which should have been a moment of relaxation, turned into an emotional battleground. That day, while other students clustered to chat and laugh, Michael stepped away a bit, seeking a quieter corner of the courtyard. But even so, he couldn't escape the looks and malicious comments from Jake and his crew. "Look at him! What was he thinking dressing like that?" Jake shouted, causing others to laugh in unison. "I think he mistook school for a homeless shelter." The cutting words reverberated in the air, and Michael felt his face burn with shame. He struggled not to let the tears fall, but the pressure was unbearable. As he moved away, he thought about how different his life was from those privileged kids, how his parents couldn't afford new clothes or a private education. That night, with his head full of thoughts and his heart heavy, Michael sat at the table, books open in front of him, but his mind far from studying. He looked out the window, watching the moon shining in the dark sky. "One day, I will show everyone that I can be someone important," he promised himself, his voice almost a whisper. The desire to change his life drove him, and he felt he needed to channel all that pain into something positive. From that moment on, Michael dedicated himself to his studies like never before. The sleepless nights became part of his routine. He sat at the table late, surrounded by books, notebooks, and a lamp that illuminated his small space. While his classmates shared stories about parties and hangouts, he lost himself in mathematical formulas and literary works. It was a different world, but it was the world he chose to inhabit. In his classroom, Ms. Taylor, the teacher, noticed Michael's effort. She always had a keen eye for students who worked hard, even if quietly. One day, after a class, she approached him. "Michael, you have an incredible talent for writing. I'm organizing a writing contest and would like you to participate. I feel you have a lot to say." Michael looked at the teacher, surprised. "Me? Do you think I'm good enough for that?" His voice trembled, a mix of disbelief and hope. "Absolutely. Believe me, you have a unique perspective that deserves to be heard," Ms. Taylor encouraged, smiling. "The essay should address the theme of overcoming. I'm sure you can bring something special." After a few moments of hesitation, Michael nodded, a shy smile forming on his face. "I will try, teacher. I promise I will do my best." In the days that followed, he dove headfirst into the essay, writing and rewriting, putting all his emotions, pains, and aspirations on paper. It was as if each word was charged with his desire to change his reality. He remembered the mockery and loneliness, but also the determination that grew inside him. "If I win, it will show everyone that I am more than they think," he thought as he typed the last lines. The idea of participating in the contest ignited a flame inside Michael. He knew there was still a long way to go, but he was determined to fight for his dreams, no matter what happened. After weeks of dedication and effort, the long-awaited day finally arrived. Michael was sitting in the classroom, nerves on edge. The writing contest, which meant so much to him, was coming to an end, and the anticipation hung in the air like a thick fog. Teacher Ms. Taylor entered the room with a contagious smile, holding a brown envelope that seemed to carry the weight of all the accumulated anxiety. "Good morning, everyone," Ms. Taylor exclaimed, her voice echoing off the classroom walls. "Today is the day we will reveal the winner of our writing contest. I can feel the tension in the air. You all did a wonderful job, and I am so proud of each one of you." The classmates, who had previously looked at Michael with disdain, were now silent, hoping the outcome would be favorable to them. Michael took a deep breath, trying to calm the turmoil within him. He remembered every word he had written, every emotion he had put on paper. It was more than an essay. It was his story, his hopes and dreams, and the winner of the writing contest is Michael. Ms. Taylor announced, with a sparkle in her eyes. The silence turned into a roar of applause, followed by some expressions of surprise. Michael stood up, stunned, feeling a mix of joy and disbelief. He could hardly believe he had achieved this recognition. As his classmates began to applaud, a warmth rose to his face. He approached the teacher, who hugged him enthusiastically. "I am so proud of you, Michael. Your essay was extraordinary and touched all our hearts. You deserve this victory," she said as he received the prize, a trip to New York, which felt like a distant dream. Michael left the room with a radiant smile, but reality had not yet settled in his mind. "I won. I really won," he murmured to himself as he walked through the school halls, the prize in his hands. The following week, Michael was in New York, dazzled by the bright lights of the city. He visited a book fair, a place where he could touch what he had always desired, the words. The scent of paper and ink enveloped him, and he felt at home. As he wandered among the shelves filled with books, his eyes sparkled at the sight of renowned writers, each with a unique story to tell. "You are the winner of the Boston School Writing Contest, aren't you?" asked a writer he admired, a man with gray hair and a gentle expression. "I heard about you, congratulations. What are you doing here?" "I'm here to get inspired," said Michael, a bit shy but full of enthusiasm. "I love writing, and this trip is an incredible opportunity for me. Writing is a journey, kid. Never stop exploring your emotions and telling your stories. That is what will make you a great writer," the author advised, winking at him. The conversation ignited a fire within Michael. He realized that literature was not just a way to escape his reality, but a means to understand the world and himself. Throughout the day, he spoke with other writers, absorbing every word and piece of advice as if they were pearls of wisdom. When he returned to Boston, Michael felt transformed. He was no longer the insecure boy who had entered the school months ago. Now, He had confidence in his abilities and a new purpose. The looks from his classmates, once filled with mockery, now seemed different. He had achieved something he had never imagined: respect and admiration. I will be someone, he thought as he left the school, determined to continue his journey. And I will show everyone that with effort and passion, it is possible to change one's own story. Years passed since the day Michael first set foot in Boston school, a place that had seemed so distant and inaccessible to him. Now, he was about to graduate with honors, an achievement that seemed almost unimaginable back then. The school auditorium was filled with parents, friends, and students, all eagerly awaiting the graduation ceremony. Michael's name was called, and as he stepped onto the stage, he felt his heart race. "Congratulations, Michael," his mother shouted from the audience as he received his diploma from the principal. He smiled, remembering all the sleepless nights and challenges he had faced. Looking out at the crowd, he saw the faces of his classmates, some of whom had mocked him in the past, and felt a wave of gratitude for having managed to overcome it all. After the ceremony, Michael was approached by an old teacher, Mr. Johnson, who always believed in his potential. "I am very proud of you, Michael. You really stood out." "What do you plan to do now?" he asked, with a sparkle in his eyes. "I'm going into real estate, Mr. Johnson. I've always enjoyed helping people find a home," Michael replied, determined. "Excellent choice. I knew you had a calling for this. Remember to never lose that work ethic that brought you here," the teacher advised, giving him a pat on the back. Michael began his journey as an assistant at a reputable local real estate company. The first days were challenging, but he was eager to learn. His boss, Mrs. Mitchell, was a determined and demanding woman, but she quickly recognized Michael's dedication. "You stood out in the interview, Michael. I hope you keep it up. Here, ethics and communication are key. Never underestimate the power of a good relationship with clients," she said in a team meeting. "You can count on me, Mrs. Mitchell." "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to learn," Michael replied, full of enthusiasm. Over time, Michael became a notable presence in the company, always going above and beyond expectations. He dedicated himself to every task, seeking creative solutions to problems and making sure to connect personally with clients. His colleagues began to notice his work ethic and treated him with respect, something he had never felt during his teenage years. One morning, while Michael was organizing some paperwork, Mrs. Mitchell entered his office. "Michael, you've been doing so well that I'd like to discuss the possibility of you taking on an important project. A client is looking to sell a very valuable property, and you would be perfect for it," she said. "It would be an honor, Mrs. Mitchell. I'm ready for the challenge," Michael replied, feeling adrenaline rush through his body. With the project in hand, Michael worked tirelessly. He dedicated hours to market research, preparing presentations, and meeting with the client. His efforts paid off, and the sale was a resounding success. Mrs. Mitchell was impressed. "You have a bright future ahead of you, Michael. I'm thinking of opening my own real estate agency soon, and I would love for you to be my partner." The proposal left him stunned. "Really? I don't know what to say." "This is amazing," he stammered, barely able to contain his emotion. "You deserve it. You worked hard and proved your worth." "Let's do this together," Mrs. Mitchell said, smiling. The new real estate agency opened, and Michael became a partner. He dedicated himself to creating an environment where ethics and respect were fundamental. Over time, the agency became the most respected in the city, and Michael began to give back to the community that had helped shape his character. He launched scholarship programs, offering opportunities to young people who, like him, faced challenges. "We're here to help, and this is just the beginning," Michael said at a community meeting, surrounded by friends and supporters. The words that were once just a dream were now becoming a reality. He had not only transformed his life, but also the lives of many others. The sense of achievement and purpose filled his heart, and he knew his journey was just beginning. During a stylish business event at a luxury hotel in Boston, Michael moved among the guests with a confident smile. He had become a respected young figure in the real estate market, and people recognized him for his hard work and dedication to the community. While chatting with a group of investors, his eyes landed on a familiar figure. Jake, his old tormentor from school days, was there, visibly out of place among the elite that once surrounded him. Jake was in a suit that seemed a bit too large for him, and his hands trembled slightly as he held a glass of water. The sparkle in Michael's eyes quickly faded, and a mix of emotions washed over him. The memory of the days when Jake and his crew humiliated him was vivid in his mind. However, Jake's expression, once filled with arrogance, was now marked by insecurity and embarrassment. He seemed like a man adrift, trying to find his place in a world that now rejected him. "Michael," Jake called, trying to approach. His voice was hesitant, and the tone sounded more like a plea than a greeting. "And do you remember me?" "Of course, Jake," Michael replied, keeping his composure. He didn't want to show how much he still felt affected by the past. "How are you?" "Oh, well, I'm trying to get back on my feet, you know. This business stuff, it's not easy," Jake replied, looking around as if expecting someone to rescue him from this uncomfortable situation. Michael felt a pang in his heart. He shouldn't feel sorry for Jake, but the vulnerability he displayed was undeniable. "I didn't know you were in business," Michael said, trying to keep the conversation light. "Yeah, I am. Actually, I'm going through some difficulties. The company I was working for, well, you know how it is, right? The market is tough," Jake said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I need an opportunity." "An opportunity?" Michael repeated, his tone cautious. Memories of humiliations, laughter, and mockery flooded back to his mind. "What do you have in mind, Jake?" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I know I'm not the best employee, but I've learned a few things. I worked hard, and I'm willing to start from scratch if you give me a chance." Michael looked into Jake's eyes, trying to decipher the sincerity behind those words. The past was not easy to forget. "Do you remember what you did to me in school?" Michael asked, his voice firm but not aggressive. Jake looked away, his face red with shame. I know I was an idiot. I wasn't a good person. Looking back, I regret how I treated you and the others. But please, life has taught me a hard lesson. I just want a chance to change," he pleaded, the vulnerability in his voice now more evident. Emily and Rachel, who were sitting a little further away, watched the scene with concerned expressions. They were also aware of Jake's reputation and the consequences of his past actions. Rachel whispered to Emily, "Do you think he really changed?" "I don't know, but it seems like he's trying," Emily replied, her gaze fixed on Jake, who now looked like a lost boy, pleading for help. Michael felt an internal conflict. The desire to help was strong, but the pain of the past still marked him. He took a deep breath, seeking clarity amidst the confusion of feelings. "I'll think about it, Jake. But one thing I can assure you, you'll have to work hard and show that you really changed," he stated, feeling a mix of hope and caution. "Thank you, Michael. I'll do my best. I just need a chance," Jake replied, his voice barely a whisper. With that, he walked away, leaving Michael in a sea of reflections about what was to come. The memories of the past were still heavy, but the possibility of a different future began to form in his mind. The atmosphere of Michael's real estate office was vibrant, filled with energy and determination. The walls were adorned with photos of impressive properties and awards he had won over the years. However, that day, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Michael had just received an unexpected visit from Jake, his old tormentor. Jake, now a man showing visible signs of financial struggles, approached Michael with a nervous, almost hesitant demeanor. "Hi, Michael," Jake began, his trembling voice revealing a mix of insecurity and shame. "Do you remember me?" "It's hard to forget someone who put me through so many embarrassing situations," Michael replied, maintaining his composure but with a firm tone. The memory of past humiliations still weighed on his mind, and the anger he felt had not completely disappeared. However, there was something about Jake that stirred a different feeling. It was the vulnerability he displayed. I know I'm not the best person to be here right now," Jake continued, swallowing hard. "But I really need a chance. I'm in a complicated situation. My family, well, we're not doing well anymore. I lost my job and I'm struggling to get by." Michael looked into Jake's eyes, trying to decipher the sincerity in his words. It was hard for him not to remember the laughter, the teasing, and the disdain he had received in school. "Why should I help you, Jake, after everything you did to me?" he asked, his voice carrying a mix of pain and doubt. Jake hesitated, and the expression on his face turned into a cloak of despair. I know I can't fix what I did. But the truth is, I'm not that boy anymore. I'm trying to change. I just need an opportunity to start over. Can you offer me that? Silence lingered between them for a few moments as Michael pondered. He remembered his own journey, every sleepless night studying, the effort he had put in to become who he was. Do you really understand what it means to work hard and respect others? It's not just about getting a job, Jake. It's a matter of character. Yes, I know. And that's why I'm here. I want to learn. I want to show that I can be better, Jake replied, his voice stronger now, as if determination was rising from within him. Please, just give me a chance. A job, even if it's something simple. I promise I won't let you down. Michael felt a whirlwind of emotions inside him. The anger he had harbored for years was being challenged by the empathy that was beginning to emerge. He knew that Jake was not just a bully, he was also a product of his circumstances, just like himself. After a long sigh, Michael decided to listen more. All right, he said, trying to keep his voice neutral. I'll hear you out, but that doesn't mean you're hired. First, I want you to come here for coffee. Let's talk about what you really want and what you're willing to do to change. Jake's expression lit up at the proposal, but caution still hung in the air. I accept, Michael. Thank you. I won't let you down, Jake said, his eyes showing a mix of hope and relief. Thus, the two headed to the small coffee area of the real estate office, where the aroma of fresh coffee filled the air. Michael grabbed 2 cups while Jake sat down, nervous. They were about to embark on a dialogue that could change not only Jake's future, but also how Michael viewed his past. As Michael prepared the coffee, he reflected on the irony of the situation. The boy who had once been the target of mockery was now in front of him, seeking a chance to rewrite his own story. So, Jake, Michael began, placing the cups on the table. Tell me more about what you've learned since those days. What do you really want for your future? In the real estate office's cafe, a modern and airy space with glass walls that let in sunlight, Michael watched as Jake, Emily, and Rachel nervously settled into the chairs around the table. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air, but the tension between them was palpable. Michael, with a gentle smile, decided to break the ice. So, how have you all been adjusting to the new job? He asked, trying to lighten the atmosphere. Jake's son, who looked thinner and older than Michael remembered, glanced at his friends before replying. It's challenging. I never imagined working in a real estate agency would be so complicated, he admitted, his voice trembling. But we're learning. Learning is the first step, Michael said, encouraging them. In the end, what matters is the attitude we bring to work. You are willing to learn, and that is what matters most. Yeah, but sometimes it feels like we're in a place that doesn't belong to us, Emily commented, insecurity evident in her expression. Everyone is so professional and successful. It's a bit intimidating. That's normal. We've all been there, Michael replied, recalling his own journey. When I entered the new school, I felt out of place and insecure. But believe me, it's through discomfort that we grow. That's how we find our true potential. But how did you manage to overcome that? Rachel asked, curious, her eyes wide with expectation. Michael took a deep breath, revisiting the tough moments of his adolescence. Dedication and hard work. I committed myself to studying and developing, but I also made sure to surround myself with supportive people. Believe me, you don't have to do this alone. It's easier said than done, Jake murmured, his voice low but with a hint of sincerity. I've always been the kind of guy who stood out for being, well, a nice guy, right? But that hasn't gotten me where I wanted to be. You can change that, Jake, Michael insisted. What you did in the past doesn't define who you can be now. We all have stories and baggage. The important thing is how we choose to deal with them. Life is about second chances. Jake looked at Michael, his expression a mix of regret and hope. I just don't know where to start, he confessed, vulnerability clear in his voice. Why don't we start here? Michael suggested, gesturing with his hand. I'm not just offering jobs. I want you to feel like you belong in this place. I'm proposing a mentorship program. A space where we can learn from each other and grow together. Mentorship, Emily repeated, her eyes shining with possibility. Yes, Michael said, nodding. a place to discuss not just sales, but also work ethic, respect, and empathy. I want you to learn the importance of building relationships, not just transactions. That would be amazing, Rachel said, beaming. But can we really do it? We don't have the experience you have. Experience doesn't matter, Michael replied with conviction. It all starts with the willingness to learn, and we all have something to teach and something to learn. Let's do this together. We can use our time here to become better, both as professionals and as people. Jake, now calmer, began to smile. Okay, I'm in. I want to try. Me too, Emily said, excited. So it's settled, Michael concluded, smiling. Let's establish a new beginning, and remember, challenges are just opportunities in disguise. Let's move forward. As the four of them stood up and prepared to leave, Michael felt a wave of hope. He knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but he believed that everyone there was ready to take the first step toward a new reality, where the past could be a springboard for a better future. Michael watched closely as Jake and his friends, Emily and Rachel, worked hard to adapt to the new work environment at his real estate agency. The space was bright and modern, with organized desks and a collaborative atmosphere that he had always strived to cultivate. However, he knew their journey wouldn't be easy. Let's have a quick meeting to discuss last week's sales, Michael said, calling everyone to gather around the table. The tension was in the air. It was evident that Jake and his friends were nervous. They weren't used to this kind of responsibility or working as a team. I know you're all adjusting, he began, looking at the worried faces. But what matters now is that we learn together. The real estate market can be challenging, but it's also an opportunity for personal growth. We all start somewhere. Rachel, sitting next to Jake, hesitantly raised her hand. What if we fail, Michael? What if we can't sell anything? Failing is part of learning, Michael replied with an encouraging smile. What I want you to understand is that every mistake is a chance to improve. Let's work together, and I'll be here to help you every step of the way. Jake, who had remained silent until that moment, finally spoke up. I don't want to be the reason the team fails. I've always been the kind of person who only cared about winning, and that got me into trouble. I never thought it would be like this, working as a team. Michael recognized the vulnerability in Jake's tone. That's a great point, Jake. I also learned the hard way that true success doesn't come from winning at all costs, but from how much you learn and grow along the way. Let's all focus on learning and improving, instead of just the results. As the weeks passed, Michael saw remarkable changes in the team. Jake began to show more humility, listening carefully to his colleagues' suggestions. Emily was excelling in digital marketing, creating attractive posts for social media, while Rachel was becoming a customer service expert, always willing to help clients find their dream homes. One morning, during a coffee break, Michael decided it was time to give some feedback. I'm impressed with the progress you all have made, he began, looking each of them in the eyes. Jake, you have proven to be a great leader, helping to inspire others with your commitment. Emily and Rachel, your contributions have been indispensable. You all deserve recognition. The faces of Jake, Emily, and Rachel lit up at Michael's words. That means a lot, Michael. Thank you for believing in us, said Jake, a bit embarrassed but clearly grateful. This is just the beginning, Michael said, encouraging them. I want all of us to continue to grow together. And remember, if you need help, I'm here. Their transformation did not go unnoticed. The rest of the team began to notice how Jake and his friends were working hard and dedicating themselves. Sales started to increase, and team morale was at an all-time high. Michael, observing all of this, felt immense pride. The old rivalry and hostility were dissipating, giving way to a new dynamic of support and friendship. In one of the team meetings, Michael decided to bring up the importance of giving back to the community. We are succeeding, and it's time to think about how we can help others who are struggling as we once struggled, he said. We can make a significant difference, and whether it's by offering internships, workshops, or even a mentorship program for young people. Jake, while he is now more confident, raised his voice. I would love to help. I know how hard it is to start, and if we can help others find their way, that would be amazing. That's right, Jake, Michael agreed, smiling. Let's do this together. True wealth lies in how we can impact the lives of those around us. At that moment, Michael realized he was not just helping Jake and his friends adapt to work, but he was also shaping a new generation of people committed to empathy and generosity. He knew that this was the true essence of his journey. During a sunny afternoon in the town square, a special event was about to take place. The atmosphere was filled with anticipation, with residents gathered to hear the story of someone who had become a symbol of perseverance and generosity. Michael, now a respected young entrepreneur, stepped onto the makeshift stage, his heart beating fast. He looked out at the crowd before him, people of all ages, some who knew his past, and others who had only heard about his journey. "Thank you for being here today," Michael began, his voice firm and clear. "I want to share a bit of my story with you. It's not just a story about success, but about the second chances we all need at some point in our lives." He paused, taking a deep breath, remembering the difficulties he faced in school. "As many of you know, I didn't have an easy childhood. I was bullied, and, for a long time, I felt alone and worthless. But instead of giving up, I decided to fight. And today, I'm here to say that true wealth does not come just from what we achieve, but from what we do for others." The crowd listened attentively, many with expressions of empathy. Among them, Jake, Emily, and Rachel were in the front row, nervous but determined to listen. Michael continued, "When I won that writing contest and went to New York, I realized that the world was much bigger than I had imagined. That trip gave me hope and a new perspective, and I decided I wanted to use my success to help other people." He looked at his old friends, his heart heavy with memories of the past, but also full of hope for the future. "I know that many of you, just like me, face challenges, and that's why I'm here to say that we should offer second chances, not just to ourselves, but also to others. No one is perfect, and we have all made mistakes." The crowd began to murmur, agreeing with his words. Michael noticed the atmosphere had changed, and he felt more confident. "I believe we have the power to transform lives, including our own, and for that reason, I want to invite all of you to join me in this mission. Let's work together to build a community where everyone has the opportunity to thrive." At that moment, Jake, feeling a wave of courage, stood up. "Michael, can I speak?" The crowd fell silent as everyone looked at him. With a trembling voice, Jake continued, "I know I haven't been a good person in the past. I hurt you, and for that I feel ashamed. But I've also been through tough times, and I'm here to say that I am changing. Your story has inspired me to be better." He took a deep breath, trying to hold back tears. "I want to thank you for showing me that transformation is possible." The audience remained silent, absorbing his words. Michael, moved, smiled sincerely. "Jake, I appreciate your courage in standing up and speaking. We all have our demons, and part of what it means to grow is to acknowledge our mistakes and learn from them. I'm here to support your journey." The crowd began to applaud, and the sound of recognition echoed through the air. "Today, I'm not just talking about second chances, but also about how we all can take a step toward compassion," Michael said, feeling the positive energy around him. "When we look at others, we shouldn't just see the mistakes they've made, but the potential each one has to change." He looked into the eyes of Jake, Emily, and Rachel, realizing that true transformation was underway. "Let's build a community where empathy and understanding are the foundations of our coexistence." The crowd, touched by Michael's sincerity and Jake's vulnerability, erupted in applause. At that moment, it was not just a presentation, it was a celebration of redemption and the power of community. Michael smiled, his heart full of hope, knowing that despite the difficulties, the true wealth lay in the transformation and compassion that he and everyone around him were beginning to cultivate. One sunny day, Michael was in his office reviewing some documents when he received a message from an old classmate. The name on the screen made his heart race. Lucas. Michael hadn't seen him in years, and as he read the message, a wave of curiosity and apprehension washed over him. Lucas revealed that there was important information about Jake, his old bully, that could change everything Michael thought about him. "Michael, you need to know that Jake's family was behind a major financial scandal that almost destroyed his life in school. They pressured him in ways you can't imagine. If you're willing, I'd like to talk in person," the message said. Initially filled with a mix of skepticism and compassion, Michael decided to set up a meeting. They met at a cafe located in downtown Boston, where the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the buzz of the city. Lucas arrived, nervous but determined. He sat across from Michael, who watched his old friend with an expression of anticipation. "Thank you for coming, Michael," Lucas began, looking into Michael's eyes. "I know this may seem strange, but I needed you to know the truth about Jake. I was surprised to receive your message." "What exactly happened to him?" Michael asked, taking a sip of his coffee. Jake was always pressured by his family. They had very high standards for success, and he couldn't meet their expectations. It was as if he had to be perfect, and the only way he found to cope with that was by becoming what you knew, a bully. "He was just as lost as you were back then," Lucas said, his voice heavy with empathy. Michael listened, his memories of that time starting to blend with the new perspective Lucas presented. "But that doesn't justify what he did to me and others. He was cruel. I know. And this is not to excuse him, but to help you understand. The pressure he faced was unbearable. When his family got involved in that scandal, Jake was devastated. He felt like he was failing, not just with you, but with everyone around him. Bullying was a way to deflect attention from his own insecurities," Lucas explained. Looking at Michael with sincerity, Michael felt a weight forming in his heart. He had always believed Jake was just a heartless bully, someone who reveled in the pain of others. And now, hearing this new information, he felt torn. "So, you're saying that Jake wasn't just an aggressor, but he was also a victim?" "Exactly. He never knew how to deal with it. And now, with what happened, he lost everything. I heard he was struggling to stay afloat. And the truth is, while he doesn't deserve forgiveness, he could benefit from a second chance," Lucas said, his expression serious. Michael pondered Lucas's words. The idea of offering a second chance to Jake wasn't easy. He remembered the nights he cried because of the bullying, the pain and humiliation. But on the other hand, he knew what it was like to be judged and not heard. "If I decide to confront him, what do you suggest I say? Be honest. Tell him how you felt and, if you want, offer an opportunity. Sometimes, people need a push to find their way back," Lucas gently suggested. Determined, Michael decided he would confront Jake. He needed to understand and perhaps help. So the next day, Michael reached out to Jake and invited him to meet at his real estate agency. Michael's heart raced as he awaited Jake's arrival. When Jake entered, he looked visibly nervous. He glanced around, unsure of what to expect. Michael took a deep breath and greeted him. "Jake, thank you for coming. I wanted to talk about some things." "Of course, I appreciate the opportunity," Jake replied hesitantly. Michael began to talk about his journey, how he had overcome the challenges of the past, and how he decided to help others rise up. Then, sincerely, he asked, "What happened to you, Jake? I heard you went through some tough times." Jake swallowed hard, his eyes filled with tears. "It was hard. My family, they expected me to be perfect. When everything fell apart, I didn't know how to cope. I became what you knew, but that wasn't who I really was. I just wanted to be accepted." Michael, moved, felt the connection forming between them. "I understand. We all face our battles, and I'm not perfect, but I decided that I want to help. If you're willing, I can offer you a job at my agency and mentorship. We can learn together." Jake looked surprised, pain and hope mingling in his gaze. "You would do that for me? After everything I've done?" "Yes, because I believe everyone deserves a second chance, and I am also a product of my experiences. Let's overcome this together," Michael replied, feeling that through forgiveness and empathy, they could finally find peace. Thus, in a conference room, two lives that had crossed painfully began to rebuild, showing that true overcoming is about the ability to forgive and learn from the past. So, what did you think of this story? Your opinion is essential for us to improve our content. Write what you thought in the comments and remember to subscribe and like this video. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next video.